Okay, good morning. My name is Meredith Jersky. I'm a second grade teacher here at Northside, and I'm going to be going through day by day each day's worth of work that we sent in that packet that you're getting in the mail. This is kind of what it looks like in the front. Probably has a letter from your teacher in front of that. But we're going to start this morning going over the good morning work page. Now you're going to notice that that page has all 4 days of ELA morning work on the front and all 4 days of ELA morning work on the back. So you're going to have to make sure we keep up with this page to be able to go through it each morning. It's going to be the same piece of paper. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this. So if we look in the passage, it's a really short little paragraph that says Life in the Midwest. And it says, Brandy is a second grader who was born in Alaska, but now lives in the part of the United States that is known as the Midwest. She lives on a farm in Nebraska. So number one is asking us, what state does Brandy live in? And if we go back in our story, we can see that currently she lives on a farm in Nebraska. So there's our text evidence, which we're going to be talking about that a lot today. So Nebraska is our answer here. And number two is asking us where she lived before Nebraska. Now, only one other state. We've got a region mentioned with the North Midwest. We've got our country, the United States, mentioned, but only one other state is truly mentioned. And if we look at number three, it's asking us to go back and highlight the text evidence used to find the answer in number two. So if we go back in our story, we can look in the very beginning where it says she's a second grader who was born in Alaska. So by highlighting that text evidence, I can prove that she lived in Alaska before Nebraska. Alaska, Nebraska. I wonder if they meant to rhyme. And then last one, number four, is asking us to read this sentence and find the correct meaning of this new word. It's not really a new word for us. I used the timeline to find the date George Washington was born. Now, timeline, remember, is one of those nonfiction text features that is quite literally a line with different dates of time. We normally see them in biography books with stories about a person's life, or if we're reading about an important event and it's got different dates throughout of it. So our correct answer for this one, of course, is going to be A, a list of events in an order that they happen. Now, you would find a timeline in a book about George Washington, but a book about George Washington is not a timeline. Okay? And at any point, if you feel like going too fast, talking too quickly, maybe you're watching this video and going back and checking your work after you've already completed it and you realize, oh, I need to change something real quick, please press pause. Press pause, take your time, go back, check your work carefully, and then press play and just catch right back up, because I know I do talk a little fast. Okay, so let's go down to the math ones. And there's probably multiple ways that you might have solved these. I'm just going to show you the way that's the most comfortable for me and the most comfortable for how I would teach to my class. And that might not be the best way for you, and that's okay as long as we get the right answer. So 57 plus 10 plus 6. In my mind, 57 is kind of a funky, not good benchmark number to add with. So I'm going to work with these two numbers, 10 and 6 first, because 10 is one of those easy to add with numbers, and I know 10 plus 6 gives me 16. Now, you're going to notice throughout this that I do a lot of stack and solve because my brain gets a little jumbled and it's hard for me to add mentally, especially when the numbers aren't good, nice benchmark numbers. So I'm going to stack up 57, my first number, and then 16, what I got with the 10 and the 6. And when I start with my ones, 7 plus 6 gives me 13. And of course, I can't write the number 13 under there. So I'm going to take my ones digit here and drop it below. My tens digit, I'm going to carry over to my tens. And then adding my tens, I've got 1 plus 5 is 6, and 6 plus 1 is 7. Give me an answer of 73. All right. So 674 minus 124. Again, Ms. Jersky is all about some stack and solve. That's my jam. In our classroom, something that we always say is we always start with my ones. There's a lot of friends, when they see, ooh, I don't think I'm going to have to regroup because my bigger numbers are all on top, we'll start at our hundreds, and that's a bad habit, so don't do that. So starting with our ones, we've got 4 and 4, numbers the same, zeros the game. Drop that 0 down. 7 minus 2 is 5. I'm making them easy this morning, aren't they? And then 6 minus 1 is also 5, so 550. All right. Next one for the second part of the math. This might be a little out of order from your sheet. That's okay. It asks you to write the number 60 on the line. Now, all we have is 20 on this side, the smaller number, and 70 on this side, the bigger number. And I know 60 is much closer to 70 than it is 20. So I'm going to stick it probably right about there. Still a little bit of distance between the two, but I know it's much closer to 70 than 20. And then we've just got some fast facts on here. 10 minus 8, of course, is 2. And these should be ones that you're getting just like can spit out real fast. 12 minus 7 is 5, and 5 minus 2 is 3. Now, if you were here, I'd ask you to raise your hand or give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself a little pat on the back if you got all those right. All right, and while I'm erasing this, you can go ahead and put that morning worksheet away. Again, remember, you're going to need to keep up with that for the rest of the week, but we can put that away. And I'm literally going to be following the directions given on this sheet, so we're going to be going step by step through that. So next is going to be our St. Patrick's Day comprehension sheet. Now, you'll see on this one that they've asked you to use several different colors. Now, if you have all 6 of these colors at home, wonderful, use them. If you don't have all these colors at home and you'd rather just use a pencil or a highlighter, you can always just number them. So on, all the way down, and then wherever you go back in the story to find your evidence, you could just number it like that. That's an easy option if you don't have all those colors, and you'll see in a minute, I have most of the colors, but not one of them, so I'm just going to substitute out one. That's fine too. The purpose of this is not you have to have the right colors. The purpose is to practice going back and finding that text evidence. And I'm sure you've already read this, so I'm not going to go back and reread it to you, but we're going to go over the answers. So in blue, we see who is famous for spreading Christianity in Ireland. Well, if we look back at our story, we're broken down into 2 paragraphs. Our first paragraph predominantly explains who St. Patrick is and how he is important to St. Patrick's Day. What is St. Patrick's Day? And then the second paragraph here talks more about St. Patrick's Day today, how we celebrate it in our country and other countries around the world, and what that looks like for us now. So if I'm needing to know who is famous for spreading Christianity in Ireland, I know that's going to be back in my first paragraph because none of that was mentioned here. So I'm going to go back in paragraph 1 where it explains how he returned to Ireland and explained his beliefs. So it says he returned to Ireland to spread his faith and explain his beliefs using the 3-leaf shamrock, and also that many Irish people still practice Christianity. So, St. Patrick's influence was important. So I've highlighted on there, St. Patrick is the answer. Now, I'm not sure how some classes do it, but every once in a while, my students will like to write the answer underneath there. In the blue. The blue is good. There we go. So, if you did that, awesome. If you did not do that, awesome. Whatever your expectation is from your teacher is totally fine. Sometimes my friends write the answers under there, sometimes they don't. It's totally up to you. The most important thing is we're going back and noting evidence in our text to prove what this answer is. Okay? So, like I told you earlier, I don't have all these colors with me, so I am going to make a decision to change my yellow to pink. I don't have yellow. So pink is asking us what color was originally associated with the holiday. Now remember, our first paragraph talked about St. Patrick himself, and our second paragraph focused more on the actual holiday. So for this one, I will be going in the second paragraph. And if I see here, it says originally St. Patrick's Day was associated with the color blue. So what color was originally associated with the holiday blue? I did not know that until I read this today. Okay, moving on. And again, if I am going too fast, you are welcome to pause and join back in with me whenever you're ready. Okay, red one asks, where might you be pinched on St. Patrick's Day? Again, focusing on the holiday today, not the history of it with St. Patrick himself. so we know we're going to be in our second paragraph. I found my keyword pinched here, and I can go back and read that, in fact, in the United States, it's often a tradition to wear green or risk getting pinched. So where might you be pinched? United States. At first I thought that meant like where you pinch people, but I was wrong. Okay, purple is next. Grab my purple. And purple is asking us, why was St. Patrick so important in Ireland? Now, if you struggled with this question, totally understandable. This is one of those ones where we're going to have to do what's called infer, meaning I can't go right back in the story and find word for word my answer like I have this pink one and this red one. You're going to have to use what you know about St. Patrick and apply it to why you think he was important in Ireland. Inferring is a hard skill too. So if you struggled with this one, I don't blame you. I kind of did too when I was trying to find the answer. So we know, reading from paragraph 1, that he came back to Ireland, spread his faith, kind of explained the beliefs of Christianity. So I see here this keyword important in both of these. So I see that his influence was important, and I believe his influence is important because many Irish people still practice Christianity. So his influence was important. And look, we highlighted blue and purple on that sentence, and that's fine. That's fine. But we matched up that keyword important. I'm not going to write this one because it's kind of long, but he is important because he influenced so many Irish people who still practice Christianity today. So his leadership was really important for that. Okay, let's go to the green. And on the green one, we ask, how old was St. Patrick when he was kidnapped? Again, I'm focusing on him, so I'm going up to paragraph 1. I see that keyword kidnapped and kidnapped. So he was kidnapped and taken to Ireland as a slave at the age of 16. So how old was he? 16. I'd be very interested to know a little bit more about him. All right, and last is our orange. It's going to be a little hard to see on the board here. So on the orange one, it's asking us, when did St. Patrick return to Ireland? I can find that keyword return. Return, again, focusing on the person. So I can see in the year 432, St. Patrick returned to Ireland. So 432. I'm going to give you just a second to see this on the screen and make sure we're still recording all right. Yep, we are. We had a little bit of technical difficulties earlier trying to record this, so making sure we're still on track. All right, so if we're following our directions, we see that we just did our Find the Evidence St. Patrick sheet. And again, rewind, pause. You have the luxury of all of that at your house. Okay, so if you look on your direction sheet, you see after the comprehension page that you have a study island assignment. When you log into Study Island, which is your username is going to be capital letter, and 3 numbers, and then everyone's password is Go Eras. If you don't know that login, check if you have a password login sheet in your binder or something, and of course email your teacher if you don't, and they'll get you squared away. But when you log in, this is going to be what your main page looks like. And if you look in this bottom right corner, it says active assignments, and you're going to see multiple days of ELA and math. Today is day 1, so you'll complete ELA day 1. This is just kind of what the active assignments look blown up. So ELA day 1, you'll just press play. Okay? All right, let's move on to math. Now, for math, you'll notice in your packet that we sent everyone a standard ruler. Of course, if you have your own ruler at home, you are more than welcome to use that. This is just for those who don't. But just like the morning work, you're going to have to keep up with this for all 10 days of the work that we sent you. So cut it out, put it somewhere safe. Don't let your little brother get it. because you're going to need that to complete the questions and several other days as well. All right, so let's get to this math. Now, these fast fact practice at the top, subtracting from 11, again, should be something that we're completing super quickly. So we've got, check those answers real quick, 9, 7, and 2, 10, 5, and 4, 8, 6, and 3. And those should be ones that we're getting pretty quickly now. Okay, so obviously, if I took my ruler and put it up on my board, my measurements are not going to be the same as yours because I've got this blown up to be a lot bigger. In the several modules ago, we focused on the centimeter side of our ruler, and all we're doing is flipping it. All we're doing is flipping it. Something that I've taught my students to remember kind of as a benchmark item, if you take your thumb, kind of this little knuckle joint here is about 1 inch. So we're working with inches now. If you're using the ruler from your packet, you'll see that the inches start, the 0 is actually right on the edge of the ruler, which makes it a little bit easier to use that one. But my ruler that I've got in here today, the 0 is just a little bit away from the edge. So it's really, really, really important that we remember that when we measure, to line it up at the 0. Line it up at the 0, otherwise you could be a little bit off. So if you've got your paper here, and you're going to take your ruler, and again, I'm lining up at the 0, you're going to say that this one goes, this first line is a little bit past 6.5, but not quite to 7. So on this first line, which I think got caught off over here, but it's okay. I'm going to write for this first line about 7 inches because it's much closer to 7 than it is to 6. And you'll see on the math we do tomorrow, it'll say measure to the closest inch. So that'll be a little bit easier. This second line, when I line up my ruler at 0, I get smack in the middle between 2 and 3. So I am going to put for the second line 2.5. And then for this third line here, it's a little bit past the 4, but pretty close to the 4. So I'm going to write that word about again and put 4 on there. Okay, so give you just a second to get those all corrected and squared away before we go to the rest of this. All right. Now, measuring lines is much easier than measuring objects because with a line you have a clear beginning and a clear end, whereas with an object it's a little bit trickier. So something that I like to do that I've taught my friends to do is to take your ruler, and I like making a line right where the item starts and right where the item ends. So there you go. Now you have 2 lines to measure. And if I measure from my first line to my second line on this one, I'm going to get 1 inch. It's exactly 1 inch little bug. And again, same thing for this. I've got a clear beginning where I can measure, and I've got a clear end where I can measure. So I can measure from line to line, and this popsicle, I guess, I don't know, is about 5 inches long. All right, last one on here. It says that Hugo measured this pencil with his inch tile. So he would have taken some tiles and put a tile here, drew a line, and then drew a line, kind of like we've done with the centimeter cubes before. Drawing a line, but he counted and said that his pencil was 6 inches, and it's asking why that's incorrect. Now, what I think Hugo did was I think he went through and counted his lines, because look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. However, we know that from this line to this line is 1 inch. This line to this line is another inch. Here to here is a 3rd inch. Here to here is a 4th inch. And here to here is a 5th inch. So something along the lines of why was this measurement incorrect? We could put that he miscounted. He counted the number of lines and not the number of inches. Anything along those lines is perfectly acceptable. Okay, now that we are finished with that sheet, we are going to look at what's next. So if we're going down your direction sheet, we finished Module 7, Lesson 14, the sheet. And your next assignment is to unlock Lesson 15 on Zone. Your teacher should have put you on Lesson 14 already. We are able to manipulate the lesson that you're on the computer. So everyone should be on Module 7, Lesson 14 when they log in. If you are not, please email your teacher. The website, zern.org, is super easy to navigate. It's also on a QR code on this online resource sheet that we sent you guys. So log into that and you are starting Lesson 14 to unlock Lesson 15, which will be what we do tomorrow. And then finally, just like the ELA practice we just did on Study Island, you're going to log in and complete Math Day 1. Start. And your teacher will be able to see how you do on that to give you feedback and whatnot. If you have any questions about any of this, please let your teacher know. We are 100% here to help you, even though we can't see you face to face. We're still here for you and want to help you in whatever way possibly we can. So have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.